she's getting out Super Tuesday. After Super Tuesday, Nikki Haley says she's staying in until Super Tuesday. Right. The Koch brothers, they fund the Americans for Prosperity. They just decided to pull their funding for a presidential campaign of Nikki Haley.
And what they're doing is they're saying that they've looked at the last 3 elections where Trump has been involved and Republicans have lost, and they're terrified that Joe Biden and the Democrats will win the House and the Senate, so they are putting their money into House and Senate runs. If they can't win the presidency, they want to make sure that they hold at least one branch.
When you look at the RCP average, though, the president is up by 2 points.
It's amazing.
3 points right now. When you look at all the polls together, he's beating Joe Biden, which is the argument of some of the people that challenged Donald Trump that he couldn't win. But right now, looking at the polling right now, he is beating him.
Nikki Haley is really helping Democrats more than anybody else because her campaign has turned into Adam Kinzinger, Liz Cheney, and Chris Christie, who are all great candidates, and they all have their positives. But all they did was attack the president personally. He said he can't win. He's not the same guy. They're the Democratic arguments, and it's not me saying that. Governor Gavin Newsom says she's our best surrogate. Yeah. So, and also, I think Governor Haley, who I think is a really good candidate too, but different, she says, well, Donald Trump lost 40% of the vote. I said, no, you went out and won it, just like Hillary Clinton won a lot of percentage of vote against Barack Obama.
The Georgia courtroom as Fulton County DA Fani Willis and her hand-chosen prosecutor and former lover Nathan Wade face questions about their credibility. It's interesting, it's salacious, but is it legally relevant and sufficient enough to get them kicked off the case? Katie Kurchowski is a former federal prosecutor and current defense attorney, and she joins us now. Thank you so much for being here. I like a good soap opera as much, I guess, as the next person does. But has defense counsel made the case for the disqualification of the prosecutors in your judgment?
Well, this is definitely a great soap opera, although it's very sad because there are defendants on the other side of this that have their lives hanging in the balance, essentially. So I think we can take a look at what the Supreme Court said in 1935 about prosecutors. And what they say is that a prosecutor may strike hard blows, but they are not at liberty to strike foul ones. And I think here, Fani Willis, along with Nathan Wade, is really on the verge of not only being disqualified from this case, but having this case dismissed with prejudice because of these new text message and digital communication revelations.
How do you view the standard? I mean, I a million years ago was a prosecutor. We ran from the potential for conflict. We didn't want the appearance of conflict. But if the standard is actual conflict for disqualification, but what does that look like? And how do you view the standard in Georgia?
When you have a senior prosecutor, a DA, who's actually bringing on an outside contract attorney with no experience or very little experience and paying them more than what other contract attorneys are being paid, and then seeming to get these benefits of some, personal vacations out of it, then you have to wonder whether there's an actual conflict, whether she's actually benefiting from the relationship because of his involvement in the case, and whether there's any sort of impact on the case itself. Now, in terms of the disqualification, I think that it was kind of a close call before we knew that the timeline of the relationship may very well have existed long before the indictments and the grand jury portion of this case were even occurring. So now that it seems to be evident that there's strong evidence that this relationship began way before they both claimed it did, and that's putting aside the perjury, there is a question about the genesis of the case altogether and the propriety of the case altogether. And the question for the judge is not only do I need new prosecutors on this case, do I actually have to get rid of this case altogether because the taint is essentially irreversible. So I think it's a matter of degree, but here it's looking a lot more tainted.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the new evidence impeaches their credibility, and trustworthiness is always relevant, and credibility is always relevant. Let me ask you this. The whole saga might well result in a delay for the former president and the other defendants. But if I'm a defendant, I think I want to be prosecuted by somebody who does real estate closings or drafts wills. I don't want someone with lots of prosecutorial experience, do I? So is it possible to win the battle and lose the war by getting these two kicked off the case?
I think that's an interesting point. I think that altogether, though, the defendants are going to go for the gold here, which is the full dismissal, because how can you ever trust the propriety of this prosecution from the very beginning when you know that, at least it seems, Fani Willis was conflicted, or at least appears to have been conflicted in personally involving herself in benefiting from this prosecution of all these people. So I see your point in terms of having a so-called less experienced prosecutor on there, but if you can avoid a prosecution altogether, then I don't think anybody's going to want to roll that dice, regardless of how inexperienced they think a prosecutor might be.
I look forward to talking to you next time. Thank you for joining us on a Sunday night.
That's a great point. But I just look back. I think Donald Trump won in South Carolina by 10 like last time, or 4. And he had a much harder race. He had 4 or 5 people going against him. With Little Marco and Lion Ted, you thought, if you're supporting these guys, there's no way you're going to intend, what was his nickname for Jeb Bush?
Low energy.
Low energy Jeb. Everyone's like, well, if you support those guys, you'll never support Trump in the general. That wasn't an issue this time in the general, and I just think we're forgetting how bruising it is and personal it is during the primary, but typically people unite.
And don't forget, that particular primary ran through May. You know, Ted Cruz did not get out until May, which is about never endorsed the presidency.
That's why this year is completely different. I don't know if we've ever seen anything like this, exactly, where the people who are running against the top person are getting out this early. We haven't seen that in a long time.
Is increasing lack of memory. And the reason I stress that is because when you're the president, nothing is more important than your ability to recollect the various briefings you've heard from your team. When your team advises you, Mr. President, this is a matter of life and death, and you need to do A. You know, Mr. President, you need to do B. No, Mr. President, I think you need to do C. A president has to digest divergent briefings from smart people with different points of view and make a decision. If he can't remember what he's being told, how can he make good decisions?
You know,
that's the problem with old age, and that's the problem with his presidency.
So 81 right now as a candidate, 82 to 86, as you pointed out, across his 4 years, should he win a second term. Those numbers don't necessarily mean you go down that road of losing everything acuity-wise. So I put less emphasis on the number, and I do exactly what the President of the United States told us to do, Ari. I watch what he does and what he communicates. And as he's showing us how he's handling things at home that are emergencies, it takes him 3 years to actually, now we're hoping he's going to get to see the border, because last time it was so forensically clean for him in El Paso, you couldn't find anybody who'd come over the border.
Yeah, no, that'll be a big event, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he does on that front. And this is a great opportunity for Donald Trump. But, you know, the other opportunity for Donald Trump is Joe Biden loves to use the line his father told him, or somebody told him, don't compare me to the almighty, compare me to the alternative. Well, that can now be Donald Trump's line. Don't compare me to the almighty, compare me to the alternative. And the alternative is soon to be 82-year-old Joe Biden. And this is why Joe Biden can lose. This is why Donald Trump can win. This is why Nikki Haley could win. Joe Biden is the weakest Democratic candidate the Democrats could possibly put up. And I don't know why Gavin Newsom is saying what he's saying other than for feigned loyalty, but everybody can see that weakness in Joe Biden. And in the video clips you play, they're only going to get worse between now and November.
The debate. I asked Brian Kilmeade this question. What could that look like? What would you want to see it look like? Could it be done in front of a live audience?
There's not going to be a debate. Joe Biden's team won't even put him out to answer questions. Why would he go out there and engage in an actual, real, spontaneous debate with Donald Trump in the early evening, in the nighttime? He can't do it. He's not capable of doing it. So there is not going to be a debate. And we saw that last cycle, too, where many gubernatorial and Senate candidates started to not debate their opponents. It's a step backward for democracy, because these debates are some of the healthiest parts of deciding who we're going to vote for. We deserve to see our president and our nominees in action. But we especially deserve to see the president in action. And since we're starved of seeing him throughout the year because the White House staff shields him, a debate is even more important. But I have no illusions that the Democrats will put Joe Biden on a stage.
Well, I threw in that live audience part because we see him in front of live groups of people every day, and it is a simple struggle. I mean, it's just baseline struggle for him. Great to see you. And always, always remember the job you did when you were in the White House. Again, Gavin Newsom couldn't touch you. Thank you.